Hey, hey, and we're back.
Back people, thank you so much. Sorry about that. Dealing with time constraints and so on, but we are back for the main attraction. I'm very impressed so far with the app games. I'm gonna, even though I've got on the iPhone 16 on this old phone here, I'm gonna get it right after this video. The wait, I can't get all the games. Are they all available now? Game it then. Champions.
Champions, yes. Sleep, yes. No, Champions, no. It's not available yet. But Pokemon, oh, uh, the mm, card game, yes. Unite, yes. What's that one? Go, yes. The one with the shiny primary Groudon, yes. But the Champions game, no, that's new. That's not come out yet.
All
So.
right, looking forward to that one. But in
Yeah,
the
I say
meantime,
I will keep an eye on it. I will keep an eye on it.
mm,
There, as I say, I mentioned there are games like this existing. So just do a little bit of a YouTube search, and you'll be able to find games that are similar to this that people are doing, and watch some of the battles. They don't tend to be quite long. You know, good players will tend to bash out their opponents pretty quickly, but there are some pretty fun ones, and you get some absolute savages. Dun, 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 dun.
no,
Oh
can't beat
man,
the
there
shades.
are absolute savages on it. Worth a look.
Ah, definitely, mate.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of which, I guess you should jump
Right,
onto the Switch too.
this is the one. This is the one.
Is it?
Very
Let me see.
excited, but
Mhm.
thoughts. I have notes. So let's
Mm.
watch, and we'll see how we feel.
All right. Very French. Mm. All right. I like it. Wow. It's free running.
Hmm.
Oh, cool. Jumping off buildings. Bad
This is
influence.
the one we want to watch. So I have thoughts. You're very right. It's very Parisian, but this is what we want to focus on.
Mm-mm. Okay. That's the logo.
Pokemon Legends
So Pokemon Legends is set in Luminous City,
ZA is a new
Mm.
title in the Pokemon series. The story takes place in Lumio City.
Lumiose, in the Kalos region. It's part of the X and Y series, which, yes, is France. You travel around France, and this is basically Paris. It's a Parisian fancy city. But the premise of the game is they're updating it. They're making it more habitable for humans and Pokemon. And
Mm.
while I love the idea that the game is the city is not only the place, but also the opponent. You have to traverse it. You have to learn abilities to get around. You saw the guy jump and then use a thing
Nice.
to go to the next rooftop. I love
Mm.
that. It's not just the streets, the back alleys, the underways. It's the rooftops. The buildings everywhere. There's so much that is explorable. It
Mm.
was nice. That's good. Legends are the first Legends game was in northern Japan, in not Sapporo, in Hokkaido, where it was
Mm.
cold and expansive. But this is exploring a city, and feels good. It's nice.
The largest
Definitely
city in the
does.
Kalos region. Prism Tower stands tall at the center of this city of beautiful vistas. These days, Lumiose is undergoing a high-tech urban redevelopment plan to turn it into a city that people and Pokemon truly share.
Oh,
After you
very
arrive in
sweet.
Lumiose,
So I mentioned this to you personally before, but
Mm.
I thought this game was going to be a prequel. It's going to occur before the X and Y games because the
Mm.
first Legends game was set in ancient Hokkaido. It was
Mm.
introducing people to the idea that those crazy creatures, they could be your friends. You know what? You could even put them in your pocket.
Right.
Um, but it's going through a high-tech redevelopment. Feels like it's modern day, and the city doesn't look the way it looked in the game, in X and Y. So it feels more like it's currently going through a redevelopment, which flies in the face of Legends being, a series of games set at the major turning points of the Pokemon history. When did Pokemon start to become allies? When did cities become more Pokemon friendly? You know, Major cultural touchstones of the Pokemon heritage is the Legends series. That's what I thought, but maybe it's a more modern day one. I just don't know.
Mm.
City to see the sights. You'll meet 3 Pokemon, one of which will become your first partner. Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile.
Score! Love Totodile, one of my absolute favorites. And just like the Legends game, the first Legends game had 3 familiar starters, which became 3 brand new, different elemental final forms. I am excited to see what Totodile becomes. Hands down, GOAT, freaking GOAT. Well, for me, he's one of my personal favorites. It's funny though, because Chikorita and Totodile both came from second generation. Tepig
Mm.
came from fourth generation. So it's weird that they had 2 from the same generation and 1 from a different. The last one I think had
Yeah.
3 from different. It had Pokemon from 3 different generations. But
Very interesting.
I like to think that Pokemon puts a lot of thought into this. They choose who's in it carefully, and the fact that
Mm.
they show off the Pokemon here, even here, showing off Pokemon where they would be most accustomed.
Pokemon, one of which will become your first partner. Chikorita.
Chikorita is known as the sweet-smelling Pokemon, the kind of aromatherapy Pokemon. It makes everyone around it more comfortable because it smells so sweet.
Tepig.
It's basically got a bay leaf on its head. Tepig, cute. Porker comes
Chikorita.
into a fighter, but again, it's in front of a cafe, and pork was like the primary food of of Paris, of French people for hundreds of years. Like they didn't eat as much beef. Beef was expensive. Pork
It sounds like
was,
Farfetch bringing his.
yeah, Farfetch was a thing with carrying its own leek. Man, it is just
Yeah,
leaning into the food
exactly.
thing.
And Totodile.
And
And
taking
Totodile's in the
piss.
river all the time,
Tongue in
fine.
cheek.
But we've all heard the legends of crocodiles living in the sewers. And
Ah, so
during Paris's revolution, they were one of the first cities to ever have a sewer, an internalized system that allowed for waste management, and it was revolutionary. But yeah,
that is it, mate. Yeah,
but
there's the depth is no.
crocodile in the
I'm sure
sewers,
you're spot on point. They put thought into this,
I
definitely.
I would love the idea
Mm.
of a poison type or a dark type kind of predatory for alligator, kind of crawling on all fours, maybe more elongated to fit through the sewers. But again, Paris is also built a city built up layers upon layers upon layers. They've been building for generations, for thousands of years, and famously, Paris has the catacombs, great burial sites in under the
Mm.
city where there's countless bones. Well, if the crocs are down in the sewers, maybe they're not poison type, but ghost type because of all the dead bodies. So I'm just
It's a good
spitballing
point.
here, but
Oh
honestly,
my gosh.
my 3 favorite types are water, ghost, and dragon. So having one of my favorite water types become ghost type is just like, shut up and take my money.
That is it, mate. Oh my God. Water type. And especially when you gave me the backstory about the alligators or the crocodiles, I believe in
It's
the
there because
sewers.
it looks like maybe that's a bridge,
It,
or maybe
I
that
think you're
is
right.
part of the sewer system. Maybe he's just like popping his head out the sewers.
I
I
think
don't
you're
know.
right.
It's just a
I think you're right.
thought.
the
Because
reason why
like
is because
if,
they put thought into this. I mean, it's a bit like Luigi. Somebody disagreed with me when I said, in Japan, there's a word called Luigi-go, which means synonym. And the Luigi part of that is another word for meaning synonymous, but go is the word for language. So of course, Mario Luigi is an actual Italian name, but it also means synonymous with Mario, pilot swap.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So of course. And now somebody we were speaking with somebody and they thought, nah, it's just you just called Luigi. I said, no, come on, don't be stupid. There's obviously thought put into this. So
Yeah.
it's a clever word.
When
Mm,
when you create a character, you do layer these things, you add these things inherently. I then there has to be. Want I want there to be a reason why this is the backdrop. But that's beside the point.
mm. Yeah.
I'm excited for the starters. I'm more excited for the fighting system.
You'll choose one
Mm.
of these Pokemon to accompany you on a new journey as you get to know Lumio City and its inhabitants. Here are some of the colorful characters you'll encounter. When you arrive in Lumiose, you'll meet a new friend and ally, either Urbane or Tawny.
Do you think that your rival is going to be opposite gender? So whichever gender you choose, you'll get the opposite one, or maybe it'll be randomized, so you will never know if you get the boy or the
Mm.
girl, and it's just like, that's the luck of the draw.
Probably.
I
I think
I,
it's probably
I
that.
would hope it wouldn't just be I'm a boy, so you're a girl, so we're going to fight,
Mm.
or I'm a girl, so you're a girl, so let's fight. I
Yeah.
really hope that it's just random. Like, it's cute that you did two different genders for it, and maybe you can choose. Oh, there you go. You do choose you and your name and your gender in the original games, and then you chose your name of your and the gender of your rival.
Mm.
You know, Professor Oak forgetting his own grandson. Was he a boy or a girl? He was a girl.
You're a dame and I'm a fella.
Yeah.
That's too funny. I
Yeah.
mean, if that
Maybe
happens,
it's
I think it'll
optional.
be meme material.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be. People will be memeing about it, but it's nice that the rival, whether it is a boy or a girl, is still kind of the same.
Yeah.
The hotel
Sorry.
where you'll be staying is run by
Yeah.
AZ. You'll also meet his
That is
partner,
nice.
Floette.
But
See,
sorry.
that's that is a massive plot point because that dude looks like a character from the X and Y games. The X and Y
Mm,
games had a tall, lanky, disheveled, grey-haired dude who had a pet fluette, and there's a massive
ah,
plot point to explain massive points within the Pokemon universe. Especially that was the first generation that really highlighted the meta knowledge of there being two versions, two games. And the argument was is that that guy did a terrible thing in one universe, but he didn't do it in the other universe. So
mm,
the changes to the environment and the Pokemon types were because in the past this dude did a terrible thing. He did a regional wide or planet wide devastation. It caused a massive problem, and it changed the two versions. That is the thing. Like it's Schrodinger's cat. Either he did or didn't do it, and each version we play are parallel universes to each other. But that
mm.
was the deciding moment that created the two divisions. So having a dude who looks just like him, who has a fluette, have his own hotel, man, that is law. My law senses are tingling, man. That's going to be a big deal.
Mm. That's it.
Lumiose's
That
redevelopment is
I'm gonna be interested in myself. Sorry, I just
being managed
I'll
by
say it till later.
Quasartico
What I was
Inc.
gonna say.
You'll become acquainted with the company's CEO Jet and her secretary Vinny.
And he looks like a thug.
Definitely.
I mean, real bad guy
The
vibes.
different people you meet will make your time in Lumiose all the richer. To help people and Pokemon coexist, the city has set up wild zones. These areas, located throughout Lumiose, give wild Pokemon habitats where they can thrive. To catch one of these wild Pokemon, aim carefully, then throw a Pokeball.
Right. I remember before we started, we were talking about aiming and so on. Just like what you have with the Pokken experience.
Hmm.
It's a completely different experience now where you are getting more and more into the logistics of actually catching a Pokemon more than just pressing a button to see if you can try again,
Ah,
throw, and if it misses, it misses, but you have no idea. But this time it's not about chance, it's about skill. You don't have to
Yeah.
aim and fire. And this is a big game changer. And wait, with that being said, Gamer Dan, for XY, this is a different feature from normal XY.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, no, X and Y was just a standard Pokemon game. So you went to
Mm,
battle, you weaken the Pokemon, you didn't faint them, and then boom, you threw a Pokeball and maybe you catch them. In this one,
mm.
you can catch them without battling. You just catch them off guard, boom, hit them with a Pokeball. If the Pokeball is strong enough and the way they are weak, the Pokemon is weaker enough, you catch them.
If you're
Or
having a hard time catching
catching
one,
one,
have one of your Pokemon use its moves to.
noticing right there, he has disarming voice. Chikorita never had that move. It's a new move for him, and
Disarming
it's a fairy
voice.
type. So maybe Chikorita, the sweet-smelling, cute Pokemon, becomes a fairy type, which very on brand.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. It does sound like it. Chikorita.
Yeah,
Huh.
but what we can see from the battle system here, we basic Pokemon details here. We have the other Pokemon in our team. So one, two, three, four, five, six. There's six in his team. You have the options down here. But what you saw is when you input the command has to
Mm.
travel to the Pokemon, and then the Pokemon does it. So there is an external indicator of, hey, I've sent an attack.
If you're having a hard time catching one,
Let's see.
See that little circle went from you to Chikorita, and then it activated the Razor Leaf attack. Then
have one of your Pokemon use its
Razor
moves to
Leaf
weaken the target.
does put it. But in this game, if you faint a Pokemon, they don't disappear. They just stand there going,
Mm.
completely vulnerable. So it's just get them to zero. So
It's not over till
overpowering
it's
them,
over.
perfectly valid way of catching,
Mm.
which makes more sense. If you faint a Pokemon, it's not going anywhere. Much easier to catch.
That is it. My
Making
gosh,
it easier to
that is
catch.
fantastic. They're not joking.
Mm.
You gotta knock it out all the way. Oh
This
my
game
gosh.
offers a
I keep quiet.
style of
This is really
Pokemon
cool.
battling not seen in
This is the
previous
exciting part.
titles.
Okay, in battle time. So,
So not only are you at a distance from your Pokemon, so they're here battling, you're here there. In the previous game, when you send out Pokemon to battle, they would stand against each other battling, and you could run independently around, so you could get a better vantage point of the battle.
mm,
But it was still turn-based, so they would wait their turn until you had yours. Moves can have longer or shorter reaches.
Moves can have a longer or shorter reach, or different areas of effect. So
So you can physically dodge attacks by making sure that your placement is right.
choose your timing and positioning
right.
carefully to gain the upper hand.
That is hmm, that is a big deal.
I think it's a step in the right direction because
Mm,
it's the idea of having real battles rather than just turn-based throwing
yeah.
out attacks. There's a lot of strategy in that because different attacks, different inputs and whatnot. But now I have more control over the actual battle. It feels more action than RPG in the battling system. And these are animals, it's
Mm,
creatures. So the idea of them standing statically and throwing punches at each other just it's realistic. I mean, the anime has long had this idea of them being able to dodge attacks, them using their own attacks as for traversal, as well as for defense. In the Pokemon series,
mm.
Pikachu creates the counter shield where he does like spin. He does like breakdancing, but he loops the light waves of attack, which interferes chaff to block larger attacks. I am so excited that they're
Mm.
introducing this. It does feel very, very rudimentary. I mean, it's like the first time they're doing it.
Lead your partner Pokemon through.
This is it.
That
I mean,
the
given
Pokemon
that
can't move on its own.
oh my gosh.
You have to lead it. So if you don't get out the way fast enough, the Pokemon gets hit. And then earlier, you saw you have a roll. You can just go, whoa, dodge roll
Right.
out the way, which Souls like.
You know
But
what, given that's a good point. Can the attacks hit you? Hit the human?
I doubt it
Can
because
the
you don't have
attacks
a
hurt the
health
human?
bar.
through battles and dodge incoming attacks.
That'd be fair enough.
Swap
But
Pokemon
the
if
reason
you
why I
need
brought up
to
is
and
because I
find
was
the right
thinking
moment to
if we
unleash
get
a
closer to
move.
the anime, maybe we should
What's
start getting
more, certain
Ash
Pokemon
Ketchum
can go
electrocuted at some
beyond
point.
evolution by
No, I Mega Evolution is cute. It's nice it's back, but I think the fact that you have more control over the environment is such an exciting change to the game. It's what games should have been long ago.
Mm,
It's what you mentioned before. that I mentioned Pokken. Pokken was the fighting game that felt like Tekken. You could move laterally, you could advance or retreat in coordination with your opponent, like Tekken. So you couldn't go like around them. They always tried to face each other. It feels like this, but this one has more of more free form. You can run in any direction. But also the Pokemon can't run on their own. They have to follow you. So if you, as a player character, don't move out of the way, the Pokemon doesn't move out of the way. But if you don't move out of the way fast enough, they're still going to get hit. You've got to really get the timing right on that. I would like to take more of a control over the Pokemon, but I think that is like the next evolution. Like maybe it's optional. Maybe like I can get an item that gives me more control over the Pokemon, or I can have more of a stronger bond. Maybe at the beginning they just follow me along like a lost child, and then as they reach a certain level or a certain friendship point, the bond gets better and they're able to more independently act from me. So I can go left, they can go right, but I can still command them. I can still shout commands. The potential there there's potential, but I think that at this point it's still very fundamental. It's still very basic.
Undergoing Mega Evolution.
I think they want to take it one feature at a time. They'll say the next game they release.
It's also why I think that, you're quite right. And I do think that's why they're doing it in the Legends series. The Legends series is going to be the experimental one. They're going to play around with ideas. They're going to play around with history. It's the playground or the workshop. You know, they lab and they test out newer versions of doing things. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, it's not marring the mainline series. The mainline series is still the way it's always been. But I do think that once this game comes out and people really start digging into the system, there's going to be a lot of people who've got some really good ideas coming from it. So we'll see how the series evolves based on it. Ultimately, it's very exciting to see lots of classic Pokemon fighting in different places. I mean, having one of these battles on the rooftop, finding different ways of traversing the building to jump on the roof, to jump across the rooftops to find a rare Pokemon, to send it out and battle them. I love this idea. I really do. I think this could be a real winner of a game. But
battle in its favor.
It is.
I agree.
It looks good, but again, it's still very rudimentary. It's still the buildings all look cookie cutter. They all look exactly the same. All the trees are the same shape and the same color. It still doesn't have that natural feel to it. But it's a step in the right direction, you know? Ultimately, I think it looks to be, I think this is going to be a winner. I think it's going to be successful. That's a given. But
no question,
I just don't know how far they're willing to experiment. Especially as, is this coming out on the Switch? The Switch would explode if this tried to play on it. No way. It has to be a Switch 2.
Oh, I see. Right. Exactly. Sorry, I jumped the gun. But yeah, Game of Dan, this is a very much. I mean, this is one of the games that I think. Well, of course they did. I mean, wait a second. Before we even came here, was this game hinted at in the last Nintendo? Did we do a direct last time, or was it?
They introduced it. This isn't the first time they introduced the idea of it. They had like a cute animation, and they did show the city. They showed different Pokemon, and it had like a blue ray lines on it. So people were like, "Oh, maybe it looks like blueprints, like they're changing the city." Yeah. So but this is the full reveal. This is the game in the place, and this is what you can do. So I'm excited.
You know what I actually respect. Yeah, Game of Dan. I gotta say, sorry, is it like a closing statement from the director? Nintendo Presents. I guess we should let it play out.
All right. Let's 1 minute closer.
As I was saying, I like the fact that it looks good quality, but it looks still manageable. There's something about Nintendo. They don't try to look super photorealistic, even despite Xbox doing so.
I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is a plot point for Legends, or this is a thing that someone else affiliated with a different game, because this
let's do the tower.
Wait, Rotom is like the floating Pokemon like a ghost Pokemon, ghost electric Pokemon that possesses
Ah,
electronics, and he's long been used as kind of like, oh, the new Pokédexes and the new phones are all Rotom, so they can have some kind of animated, hey, I'm a friend vibe to them. He appears, he swings around and he goes, this is a promotional match announcement. Is this like for us? Like, there's going to be a bunch of promotional matches for the fans, or is it in game? Like, is the player character getting an announcement on his phone saying, "Yo, there's a thing, there's a tournament coming," because
yeah.
it shows like the city and then the tower,
Mm,
and the Pokeball is like, "Yo, maybe this is the place where the Pokemon battle is happening, or maybe this is the sign of the villains because they are trying to use the Pokeball to capture the city."
mm,
I,
and I'm curious
I
too,
don't know.
actually.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just
Mm,
like a hint for the overarching story. Like, well, why are we in the city? We want to help it develop for Pokemon, but also there's a team tower or something here. I don't know. I suspect this is a plot point rather than promotion for something else.
mm.
Because it's like, whoa, there's a threat
I
sound
see
effect
what
at
you
the
mean.
end.
This is yeah. Oh, sorry. Here he comes.
Pokemon Legends ZA is scheduled to
Understood.
release in late 2025.
Don't have to wait long. It's good.
We hope everybody can
Hmm.
wait just a little
Looking
longer
forward
for
to
their
it.
adventures in Lumiose City to begin. That concludes our announcements for today. Thank you very much for watching.
We got to share this with Professor Suzuka.
We really should. We should. If she
Oh,
hasn't
hello.
already watched it,
Yeah. So
I think we should
yeah.
talk about it with her because I'd like to hear her opinions.
What?
I'm focused on the gameplay, or especially on the Legends game. I liked the first Legends game. I am excited for the new Legends game, and
Mm,
seeing it has only reignited that fire because I am really, really excited to explore the city, find new Pokemon, and try this new battling system out to really get into the nitty gritty, get deep into the weeds, see what this thing can do.
mm.
Are there like rhythms? Can I find out the timings and placements of certain attacks so I can weave, duck and weave? Yo, yo, yo. I don't know, maybe, but I'm excited. But I'd like to
I
hear
was
her
thinking
opinion
about
on
how
some of the other
to
things.
hook. I mean,
Uh,
exactly. I'm wondering, can that game hook in with the iPhone games, or the? What do you think?
what
Can you
Legends?
can you send Pokemon from Pokemon Go, for example? No.
That's interesting, actually, because you'd have to use Pokemon Home. Home is the app that is basically the Pokemon Bank. It used to be called Pokemon Bank, now it's Pokemon
Mm,
Home, but it's basically just a bank where you put your Pokemon in. But you can attach a bunch of different games to it. So yeah, you could send Pokemon from games to the home, and then maybe it could, this new game could attach to home. I mean, Legends did. Yeah, you could take Pokemon from Legends and send them to the home. So, but I
which is
don't know whether you wouldn't be able to send everything. Like whatever's allowed in the game, you'll be able to send. If that Pokemon
mm,
isn't in that Pokemon work game, you can't release it. But yeah, I maybe maybe
I wanna prep from now for that game, but I'm gonna stack out some Pokemon. I think we haven't have you had a we haven't had a battle before, have we? We should have a battle.
we
Uh,
no, we
you
should
yeah.
just tell me the
Mm,
game and I'll get boned up and make sure I've got a decent team. With that, the Pokemon Presents looks good. The,
yes, I have to
the
say.
earlier stuff, the mobile games looks cute, and they really hamming up the new cards. But I am very excited for Champions. I think that's going to look good, and I love the fact that it's on mobile as well. That's a very smart move.
Yeah,
Get everyone anywhere who's got a phone, got a
it's
Switch,
very smart.
play, and then Legends just looks so good. You know. Yes, I'm excited. With that, your thoughts?
Yeah, my gosh. That was my okay. I gotta say, I mean, if you gave it, thanks so much for the commentary, and you provided so much more insight than actually I had, as always. But I gotta say, one thing I'm happy to hear is, like you said, with home, how much we can integrate our Pokemon that we train, develop in other apps into our experience here. In fact, just the other day, last week, I went to a friend's house with my missus, and we played Pokemon Stadium, like the fighting
Oh,
games and so on, and battles. Yeah, people was like, yeah, there's not something about that. And what I gotta say is that I mean, there were ups and downs in the presents today. In that, when I say ups and downs, it's not really downs in that. I felt very impressed with how cinematic some of the mobile games were, but I was intrigued at how impressed I was also by Pokemon ZA's graphics. The
mm,
animation, of course, for the trailer games are, of course, a different level. But just like Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon ZA, it's got that Nintendo knows how to make sure the gameplay is such that no matter what graphics that you're dealing with or kind of graphics you're dealing with, you're gonna have a good game if the game's a
mm,
good game. Which I think is not a strong point on the competitive systems. PS and in Microsoft. I think when they want a new game, they want to make sure it looks better than or looks competitive with the others to the point where that seems to betray the game is not the priority so much.
mm.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, what I mean by that is the game is good on those consoles too. It's just that if I wonder how the game experience would change if you drop the graphics significantly in the
Yeah.
latest Xbox games or latest
Is it
PS
still fun
games.
without the bells and
It's
whistles?
it's still fun.
Is it still fun? I think
You're
that,
talking about the
yeah,
PS games?
I think you're right. I think because the Switch was such a obviously underpowered machine, they had to squeeze every
Mm,
juice at it and make solid games. The gameplay had to be on
mm,
point because the visuals are never going to challenge the other two. But that Nintendo are good at that. You know, they're good at crafting really intuitive, really interesting experiences. And yeah, the other, PlayStation, they can up res and make the games look incredible. And you're like, yeah, that's great, but is the game fun? And too often, yeah, the game's lacking,
mm,
so they lean on the visuals. Destiny.
And
So
yeah,
yeah,
and that's the thing. But yeah,
I'm excited.
but I
I
gotta
think
say,
Nintendo will do
Nintendo,
well.
I'm really yeah. I mean, here's the thing with that. When they do that, what they because this the graphics, I'm sure if the excuse me, the Switch is as powerful as it's being said, they could make the graphics for ZA, if you will, even more high res. I think. Maybe I'm wrong,
I,
but maybe you can make some
well,
Muse chip in there or something. I don't know.
I have a sneaky suspicion, not
Mm,
dread, but a sneaky suspicion that
mm,
the games look very similar. The visuals are quite bland and the backgrounds because they're going for a dual launch. They're going to try and release on Switch and Switch 2. Switch 2 is going to look so much better, but the core gameplay is
uh,
very simplified. They're trying to squeeze as much as they can out of basic animations because it's going to be on both systems. And if it releases only for
I
Switch
see.
2, well, then we know that it's going to look good and play well because the Switch has got the raw horsepower. But the Switch in the hands of so many people and so many kids that if you cut them out and say, yo, you can't play until you buy the new machine, in your first year, that's not a smart move. I mean, even Nintendo themselves didn't do this when they first released the Switch. They released, Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild
Mm,
was the game seller. That was the IP. That was the game that sold the consoles. But it was dual. It was on both systems. People forget that Breath of the Wild is available on Wii U, and it's often easier to emulate on
mm,
Wii U than it is for the Switch. So people play when you're emulating Breath of the Wild. People can lean into the Wii U version, um, but it's just better on the Switch. And I
interesting,
think that
interesting.
might be that might be
In
what they're
that
going to aim
case,
for. That it's going to
mm,
be, we're seeing the version that's on both. So we're seeing the basic version. But if we see when you get the Switch 2 version, there'll be a lot more polish to it. There'll be a lot more available to it. So maybe that's the case. Again, we're going to get E3 before this game will launch. So I trust that
E3.
the Nintendo Treehouse, the Nintendo will release a lot more information about it before
Mm,
its launch. But this is the first full trailer. We've seen the place, we've seen the premise. We don't know the story. We don't know how much there are. We
true.
did see
Yeah.
like the we did see like the in the wild zones they are numbered, and there at one point there was an eight. So there are going to be at least eight different zones, and I
Oh,
suspect that
okay.
they're going to be different biomes. So like, there'll be a street or a couple of streets are blockaded off, and they'll have like forest,
Oh,
grasslands, fire, water, just like the biomes from the Legends game. But it's going to be
yeah.
weird because they're building these things in the city. It's not like they're carving out a chunk of land and then putting it in the city like Central Park. It looks like it's just the city plus biome. Like when you're in the grassland one, there's a bunch of grass, there's a few shrubs, and there's a dude's car. I'm like, is that burnt out? Is that the guy who lives in that house? Dude, imagine if your house got turned into a wild zone. It's like having, someone building a train line in front of your house. Constant fighting, constant battling.
Yeah, this is hilarious.
But again, so stuff to think about.
Definitely. I'm going to be following this title quite closely, actually. And last thing on not least, bloody hell. No, it's gone out my head. Hopefully it'll come to me in 30 seconds. If it doesn't, it was meant to be. But yeah,
Well,
well, that's
okay, we do have to wrap this up.
yeah, we
Thank
can
you
go.
guys for watching.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts about X and Y, put it in below. If you can remember the wind-up toy Pokemon game, there's a
Yes.
hint. Put it down below, and props to you if you do, because
Mhm.
peas in the
Yeah.
pod, baby. We smell our own.
Yeah.
But just a quick announcement.
Mm.
We're having a few technical issues with Movie Dan. We're having a few hiccups with that,
Uh,
but it's progressing nicely. But I'm going to take a little bit of a break from that because Steam Next Fest has
yeah.
occurred. So I've got about 20 plus demos lined up this weekend. I'm just going to burn my way through them, about 40 minutes to an hour a pop, and there's just going to be a whole deluge of new games. If there are any that you guys are interested in, comment now.
Please.
Send us a direct, send MatMadik a DM.
Yeah.
Let me know. I've gotten a whole splattering, some RPGs, some boomer shooters, some Metroidvanias. I even got a cute, relaxing game with a cat on an island. Sounds nice. But I'm trying to do a nice splattering scene, but what I tend to do is just kind of go in and what strikes my fancy, like what jumps out at me, and like I'll trust my own senses, my own feelings. I get it, download it, boom. But yeah, that's coming this weekend. So, yo,
Fantastic. Cheers, Gamer 10 and people. Yeah, if I remember what I was gonna say, I'll put that in the comments too. So thanks so much, Gamer 10. That was awesome. And yeah,
nice. Like, share, and subscribe.
yeah, man.
Peace.
Peace.